Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping back in time not to the roar of the gladiatorial arena or the clamor of the Roman Forum, but to a place far more fundamental to daily life, the heart of a Roman bakery. Imagine the chill of the pre-dawn air, long before the sun even thinks about rising, mixed with the warm, comforting aroma of fermenting dough and wood smoke. You're not just a casual observer, you are the baker, specifically a Roman baker, in a bustling city like Pompeii or Rome. Your hands, already dusted with flour from yesterday, instinctively rub together, anticipating the kneading that's about to begin. The rhythmic thump, thump, thump of distant milling stones, the crackle of a fire being stoked, the low murmur of your apprentices stirring. This is your reality, your entire existence for the next countless hours. This isn't some quaint little cottage industry. This is the engine that feeds the masses, the unsung hero of the Roman diet. And let me tell you, one bad batch, one oven mishap, and your reputation and livelihood could crumble faster than stale bread. You probably won't survive a single Roman summer without melting, but your nose is about to go on an incredible journey. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. And if you're enjoying these little journeys, liking and following helps keep them coming. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As your eyes adjust to the gloom, you feel the cool stone floor beneath your bare feet. The air is thick with the sweet, yeasty scent of yesterday's dough, a comforting, familiar aroma that signifies the relentless cycle you're about to resume. You rub the sleep from your eyes, your mind already racing through the day's tasks. Is the starter active enough? Are the ovens at the right temperature? Will the grain delivery arrive on time? Such worries are constant companions in your world. The earliest hint of light is just beginning to filter through the high, small windows of the bakery, casting long, ethereal columns of dust motes dancing in the air. You can already hear the faint, muffled sounds of the city slowly stirring the distant bray of a donkey, the creak of cartwheels on cobblestones, and the soft, repetitive grinding that means the mill is already at work. You make your way through the cavernous space, past the hulking, silent forms of milling stones and the gaping mouths of enormous brick ovens. The sheer scale of this place, even in a relatively modest pastrinum Roman bakery, is always a little imposing, even after years of navigating its labyrinthine passages. This isn't just a place where bread is made. It's a self-contained production unit, often combining the mill and the oven under one roof. Historians still argue whether the integration of milling and baking within a single pastrinum morn was primarily for efficiency or a strategic method for bakers to control the quality of their flour and prevent adulteration. You nod a silent greeting to the few early rising apprentices who are already beginning the arduous task of stoking the enormous wood-fired ovens. Smoke curls lazily from the chimneys, a signal to the awakening city that the scent of fresh bread will soon fill the streets. Remember that feeling of dread when your alarm goes off way too early? Multiply that by 1,000 and add the pressure of feeding a hungry populace where your performance directly impacts their daily sustenance. Welcome to your life. As your senses acclimate to the bakery's awakening, you begin to grasp the fundamental layout and essential equipment of a typical Roman pastrinum, the very Roman bakery's heartbeat. This isn't just a collection of tools. It's a carefully designed, highly functional space optimized for the continuous production of bread. You navigate its immense space, feeling the grit of flour underfoot and the rising warmth from the massive ovens. Imagine a production line but powered by muscle and ancient ingenuity, not electricity. Your eyes sweep across the main hall, identifying the key components. Dominating one end are the imposing milling stones, often 2 or 3 sets comprising the mola asinaria donkey mill. These aren't just decorative features. They are the literal heart of your operation. One conical stone sits atop another, the upper one rotated by brute force to grind the grain into flour. The rhythmic thump, thump, thump that was a distant murmur earlier is now a more prominent hypnotic beat. You'll be overseeing this grinding process constantly throughout the day, ensuring a steady supply of fresh flour. Historians still argue whether the pastrinum's integrated milling capabilities were universally present in all Roman bakeries, or primarily a feature of larger, more self-sufficient establishments. Adjacent to the mills, you find the mixing area. This usually consists of large sturdy stone or wooden troughs where flour, water, and leaven will soon be combined. Nearby, you'll see a robust kneading machine, often powered by a mule or donkey, a series of wooden paddles that plunge into the dough. This ingenious device saves immense human labor for the initial heavy kneading. It's like having a slow, deliberate, ancient mixer, far less noisy than your modern stand mixer, but infinitely more reliant on animal power. And honestly, it probably smells a lot better than the exhaust from your average commercial oven. But the true center of the bakery, the source of its warmth and the magic of transformation, is the massive brick oven furnace, or fornax. These are enormous beehive-shaped structures built from heat-retaining brick and stone with a wide mouth for loading and unloading loaves. You can feel the residual heat radiating from its depths, a promise of the crisp crusts and fluffy interiors to come. Around the oven, you'll see long wooden peels used to slide loaves in and out, and perhaps smaller iron tongs for adjusting embers. Scattered throughout the space are various essential smaller tools: sturdy wicker baskets for holding proof dough and cooling loaves, wooden tables for shaping and portioning, and various scoops and brushes for handling flour and cleaning surfaces. The air is already thickening with fine flour dust, a constant companion to your work. Even the water supply, often from a well or a connected aqueduct, is carefully managed in large cisterns, vital for both dough and cleaning. The layout is designed for a continuous workflow, minimizing unnecessary movement. Grain comes in as milled flour, moves to mixing dough, is kneaded, shaped, and then transferred to the oven, and finally the finished bread emerges. It's a testament to Roman efficiency, a practical design honed over centuries to feed a hungry populace. The pistrinum is more than just a building. It's a living, breathing organism, and you are its tireless heart. You certainly wouldn't want to forget your favorite kneading spoon. That would be a catastrophe of epic proportions, almost as bad as running out of flour in the middle of a rush. With the bakery's layout now firmly etched in your mind, your day truly begins with the most fundamental and arduous task: grinding grain into flour. This isn't a pre-packaged convenience. It's a continuous physical process, often performed right there in your pistrinum, ensuring a fresh and constant supply of the vital ingredient. You make your way towards the manasad milling stones, feeling the rumble of their turning even before you reach them. These mills, the mola asinaria, are typically powered by mules or donkeys, harnessed to a wooden beam that turns the upper hourglass-shaped stone over a stationary conical base. The animals are already working, plodding tirelessly in a slow, hypnotic circle, their hooves scuffing rhythmically on the stone floor. The air immediately thickens with fine flour dust, a constant, pervasive presence that coats everything and everyone. You inhale deeply, the dry, earthy scent of freshly ground wheat filling your lungs. It's a sensory experience, a raw connection to the very origins of your craft. Historians still argue whether human power was used as often as animal power for milling in urban bakeries, or if animal mills were primarily reserved for larger operations. You oversee the process, ensuring the grain, usually hard wheat, is fed steadily into the top of the mill. As the upper stone rotates, it crushes and grinds the grains against the lower one, slowly transforming them into flour. The speed of the animals and the precise alignment of the stones are crucial for achieving the desired fineness. Too coarse, and the bread will be dense and unpalatable. Too fine, and the flour might overheat. You constantly monitor the flow, making subtle adjustments, your experienced ear listening for any changes in the rhythmic grinding that might indicate a problem. It's like being a DJ, but your instruments are heavy stones, and your music is the sound of freshly milled grain. The process of milling is loud and dusty. The rhythmic clack, clack, clack of the grinding stones, the muffled scuff of the animal's hooves, and the occasional creak of the wooden machinery create a continuous hypnotic din. Apprentices, their faces and clothes coated in white dust, continuously shovel grain into the mills and collect the freshly ground flour from the chutes below. Their movements are repetitive, almost robotic, yet essential to the bakery's operation. They will spend hours, often entire shifts, tending to these mills, their bodies swaying with the rhythm of the grinding. The quality of your flour is paramount. Freshly milled flour retains more of its natural nutrients and flavors than flour that has been stored for long periods. By grinding your own, you control the purity and fineness, ensuring that your bread consistently meets the high standards demanded by Roman palates. This vertical integration from grain to baked loaf was a defining characteristic of many Roman bakeries, distinguishing them from simple bread sellers. You certainly wouldn't want to receive a batch of worm-eaten flour from an unreliable supplier. That would be a catastrophe of epic proportions. The very foundation of your day and your bread rests on this arduous, continuous act of transformation, turning humble kernels into the white gold of the Roman diet. With the rhythmic clack of the mills providing a constant backdrop, your focus shifts to the very essence of baking, mixing dough muscles and skill. This is where the dry, dusty flour begins its magical transformation into the pliable living mass that will become bread. You move to the large, sturdy mixing troughs, often made of stone or robust wood, ready to begin the strenuous yet deeply satisfying work. First, the flour is carefully measured. Although Romans didn't have standardized weights and measures exactly as we do, you as an experienced baker rely on a keen eye and practice judgment for the correct proportions, often using large scoops or measuring vessels. Too much or too little flour can throw the entire batch off balance. Then comes the water, cool and clean, often drawn from a well right there in the pastrinum, or from a nearby public fountain transported in large ceramic jugs. The temperature of the water is crucial. Too cold and the yeast will be sluggish. Too warm and it will overactivate and exhaust itself too quickly. Historians still argue whether Roman bakers had a precise understanding of water temperature's impact on yeast activity, or if it was simply a learned intuitive practice passed down through generations. Next, the leaven. Your precious sourdough starter is introduced. This isn't store-bought yeast in a packet. It's a living culture, a portion of fermented dough saved from the previous day's batch. You add it carefully, watching as it slowly begins to meld with the flour and water, initiating the miraculous process of fermentation. The scent of the starter is distinctive, slightly sour, yeasty, and incredibly alive. It's your secret ingredient, the soul of your bread, giving it its unique flavor and texture. Then comes the physical labor, kneading. For the initial bulk mixing, you might harness a mule or donkey to the kneading machine, a heavy wooden device with paddles that churn and fold the dough in a large trough. This saves immense human effort, allowing for larger batches to be prepared efficiently. The machine moves slowly, powerfully, its paddles plunging into the sticky mass, stretching and developing the gluten. It's like a very, very slow-motion tumble dryer for dough, but far more fundamental to civilization. However, even with the machine, human hands are indispensable. You, along with your senior apprentices, will perform the final stages of kneading by hand on large flour-dusted wooden or stone tables. You plunge your hands into the warm elastic mass, pushing, pulling, and folding, feeling the dough's resistance and elasticity. This is where skill truly comes into play, sensing when the gluten is sufficiently developed, when the dough is smooth and pliable, no longer sticky, but alive and resilient. The rhythmic slap, fold, turn of your hands becomes a meditative practice, a dance with the raw ingredients. The air around you is thick with flour, a fine white dust clinging to your clothes, hair, and even your eyelashes. Your muscles ache, particularly in your shoulders and arms, but there's a deep satisfaction in the work. You are transforming simple elements into something essential, something that will nourish the city. There's no fancy KitchenAid here, no precise digital scales, just the raw power of human hands and an innate understanding of your craft honed over countless batches. You certainly wouldn't want to skip arm day if you were a Roman baker. Your livelihood literally depended on your strength. This deep physical connection to the process makes every loaf a personal achievement. With the dough now thoroughly mixed and kneaded, the most crucial yet quietest stage of the baking process begins: the fermentation process. This is where patience is not just a virtue, but an absolute necessity. You carefully transfer the large elastic mass of dough into sturdy wooden troughs or large ceramic bowls, often covered with damp cloths to prevent a skin from forming. The bakery, though active, now adopts a watchful stillness as everyone waits for nature's magic to unfold. You know that the warmth of the bakery radiating from the distant ovens is key to encouraging the yeast in your sourdough starter. The ambient temperature needs to be just right, warm enough to awaken the microscopic organisms, but not so hot that they become overactive and exhaust themselves too quickly, leading to a dense, flavorless loaf. This intuitive understanding of temperature without thermometers or precise controls is a skill honed over decades passed down from one generation of bakers to the next. Historians still argue whether Roman bakers understood the biological process of fermentation or simply relied on empirical observation and traditional practices. As the hours pass, you periodically check the dough. You observe its subtle swelling, the formation of tiny bubbles on its surface, and the faint, sour aroma that intensifies as the yeast performs its work. This is the very first rise of my or bulk fermentation, a slow, deliberate expansion where the gluten relaxes and the flavors deepen. You might gently prod the dough with a floured finger, feeling its springiness, knowing just by touch when it's ready for the next stage. It's like watching a very slow, very delicious balloon inflate, but if it pops, you've got a problem. The duration of this first rise depends heavily on the temperature, the strength of your starter, and the type of flour used. In cooler weather, it could take many hours, perhaps even overnight. In the heat of a Roman summer, it might be much quicker. This constant adaptation to environmental conditions is a hallmark of your craft. You might even hear the faint, almost imperceptible sigh of the dough as it slowly expands, a subtle sound that only a baker truly attuned to their work can detect. After the initial rise, the dough will be gently punched down to release some of the buildup gases, then allowed to rest and rise again. This second fermentation further develops the flavor and creates a finer, more even crumb structure in the finished bread. This process is crucial. Rushing it results in bread that is heavy and lacks character. It's the difference between a quick, superficial acquaintance and a deep, meaningful friendship. True quality takes time and care. And unlike your impatient modern self waiting for a download bar to fill you, simply learn to embrace the slow, deliberate pace of the dough. No amount of nagging will make it rise faster. You just have to trust the process. While the dough gently performs its slow, yeasty dance, your attention and that of several apprentices turns to the fiery heart of the pistrinum, stoking the brick oven. This isn't your modern kitchen appliance with a digital display. This is a colossal wood-fired beast that requires constant attention, precise timing, and immense heat to produce perfect loaves. You approach the gaping maw of the oven, feeling its immense residual warmth, even from a distance. The oven, typically a large dome-shaped structure built from heat-retaining brick or stone, has been slowly heating since the earliest hours. Apprentices, their faces smudged with ash, use long iron fire tongs and sturdy shovels to feed it, carefully arranging logs of seasoned hardwood within its belly. The type of wood matters. Olive oak or pine each burns differently and imparts a subtle character to the heat. You ensure a consistent roaring fire, building up the heat slowly and evenly, allowing it to thoroughly saturate the thick brick walls. This isn't just about getting it hot. It's about building up enough thermal mass to sustain consistent baking temperatures for hours. Historians still argue whether Roman bakers precisely measured oven temperatures or if they relied entirely on intuitive methods like throwing flour on the floor to gauge heat readiness. The initial stoking generates a significant amount of smoke, which curls lazily upwards through the chimney, a telltale sign to the awakening city that the bakeries are alive. But as the fire truly takes hold, the smoke clears, and the interior of the oven begins to glow with an intense, mesmerizing orange light. You might peer inside, gauging the heat by the color of the bricks, a deep, almost white-hot glow indicating it's nearly ready. A too-hot oven will char the crust before the interior is cooked, while a too-cool oven will result in dense, heavy loaves. It's a delicate balance, a constant negotiation with fire itself. As the oven reaches its peak temperature, the apprentices begin the arduous task of raking out the embers and ash. Using long-handled shovels and rakes, they meticulously pull every last piece of burning wood and ash from the oven's floor, leaving behind a clean, incredibly hot baking surface. This is a crucial step. Any remaining embers would burn the bottom of the bread. The heat radiating from the open oven mouth is immense, almost unbearable, requiring quick practiced movements and a thick layer of sweat. You certainly wouldn't want to accidentally brush against the inside of that oven. Your day would end very abruptly. It's a testament to their fortitude that they handled such extreme conditions daily. Once the oven is clean, its mouth might be partially sealed with a metal or stone door to allow the heat to stabilize and distribute evenly throughout the chamber. This period of resting the oven ensures consistent baking. The pervasive smell of wood smoke and intense heat fills the air, mingling with the now stronger sour-sweet scent of the rising dough. The stage is set for the transformation. The fire is ready to embrace the dough, turning it into the daily bread that feeds a city. It's a primal, powerful process, a reminder that even in ancient Rome, the simple act of baking was deeply connected to harnessing nature's raw forces. With the fiery heart of the oven now perfectly prepared, your attention returns to the risen dough, ready for the crucial stage of shaping loaves' form and function. This isn't merely about rolling dough. It's an art, a precise craft where each loaf is given a distinct form, often signifying its type purpose or even its intended recipient. You move to the long, sturdy wooden tables dusted liberally with flour, where your most skilled apprentices are already at work. You take a portion of the soft, elastic dough, feeling its warmth and resilience in your hands. It's perfectly proofed, springing back gently when you prod it. This is where your years of experience truly come into play. You begin to expertly divide the dough, ensuring each portion is of a consistent weight, a task performed by feel rather than precise measurement. An unevenly sized loaf will bake unevenly, a cardinal sin in your trade. It's like being a sculptor, but your medium is alive and constantly changing. Historians still argue whether the consistent sizing of Roman bread loaves was primarily for equitable distribution or a practical matter for efficient oven loading and baking uniformity. The most common shape you produce is the iconic round loaf, often divided into 8 sections by deep score marks resembling a cake. This simple yet effective design, common in Pompeii, made it easy for consumers to break off individual portions. You deftly press your fingers into the dough, creating these divisions, a small, subtle mark of your craft. For these basic loaves, a baker's stamp might be pressed into the center, leaving a unique mark identifying your pastrinum, a crucial detail in a city full of competing bakers. But the variety extends far beyond the basic round. You might shape long, slender, baguette-like loaves, perhaps destined for a richer, more refined table. Some dough is rolled into small, rustic rolls. Panes Siliginae, perfect for individual servings. For military rations, bread might be baked in a harder, denser form, designed for longevity and easy transport. And for the very wealthy, or for special occasions, there might be more elaborate shapes, perhaps braided loaves, or intricately scored patterns designed for visual appeal as much as for consumption. Each shape has a functional purpose influencing how it bakes, how it's handled, and how it's eaten. The movement is fluid efficient. Your hands work with practiced speed, shaping dozens of loaves in minutes, your apprentices mimicking your motions, slowly building their own muscle memory and skill. The air is filled with the soft thud of dough on wood, the gentle padding, and the occasional soft whisper of instruction. The warmth from the cooling dough rises, mingling with the ever-present scent of flour and fresh yeast. As each loaf is shaped, it's carefully placed onto a large flat wooden peel, ready for its journey into the searing heat of the oven. The loaves are lined up neatly, a silent army awaiting their fiery transformation. This stage, where form is given to the raw material, is a testament to the baker's artistry, transforming simple ingredients into the staff of life. You certainly wouldn't want to accidentally bake a loaf shaped like your grumpy neighbor. That might lead to an awkward conversation at the market. Know every shape serves a purpose, a quiet declaration of skill and tradition. With the perfectly shaped loaves now resting on wooden peels, their surfaces dusted with flour, the moment of truth arrives. Baking the daily bread. This stage demands incredible speed, precision, and an intimate understanding of the oven's searing heat. You stand at the mouth of the massive brick oven, feeling the intense radiant warmth wash over you, knowing that a single misstep here could ruin hours of painstaking work. One by one, or sometimes 2 at a time, you or your most skilled apprentices use long, flat wooden peels to slide the raw loaves deep into the oven's blistering interior. The movement is fluid and practiced, a quick, decisive push, A flick of the wrist, and the loaf lands perfectly on the hot stone floor. You must work swiftly. The open oven mouth releases a torrent of heat, and every second counts both for your comfort and for maintaining the oven's temperature. It's like a highly synchronized ballet, but with literal fire and bread. Historians still argue whether Roman bakers had specialized tools for measuring the precise internal temperature of the dough during baking, or if it was entirely reliant on their experienced touch and visual cues. The heat within the oven is immense, reaching temperatures that would instantly scorch an unprotected hand. The dough exposed to this intense dry heat immediately begins its magical transformation. The yeast, invigorated by the sudden warmth, produces a final burst of carbon dioxide, causing the loaves to swell and achieve their final volume. This is the crucial on spring. The crust rapidly hardens and begins to turn golden brown, forming a protective shell that traps the steam within, keeping the interior soft and moist. You can almost hear the bread sighing as it bakes, a faint crackle and pop as the crust expands. The baking time varies depending on the size and type of loaf, but constant vigilance is required. You periodically use a shorter peel or a long-handled iron tong to rotate loaves, ensuring an even bake, preventing one side from burning while the other remains pale. The aroma filling the bakery now is intoxicating, the deep, rich smell of baking bread, a scent universally comforting and deeply primal. It mingles with the lingering wood smoke and the faint, sweet, sour notes of fermentation, creating an unforgettable olfactory experience. It's a good thing smells don't show up on a historical record, because this aroma alone would tell you more about Roman life than 1,000 dusty scrolls. As each batch of bread finishes baking its crust a deep golden brown, sometimes with beautifully blistered surfaces, it is swiftly retrieved from the oven. The wooden peel slides under the hot loaves, pulling them out onto waiting racks or woven mats. The exterior is hard and resonant, the interior light and airy. The sound of freshly baked bread gently tapping it to check for doneness is a small, satisfying victory. The oven's heat is relentless, but so is your dedication. You certainly wouldn't want to leave a loaf in for too long and discover a charred lump. That would be a literal burnt offering to the baking gods. This intense, fiery stage is where your daily labor culminates, transforming humble dough into the golden, life-sustaining staff of Roman life. With the intense heat of the oven finally behind them, the freshly baked loaves emerge into the cooler air of the bakery, entering the crucial stage of cooling and stacking loaves. This isn't just about letting them sit. It's a vital part of the baking process, allowing the bread to set its flavors to fully develop and its crust to achieve that perfect crispness. You watch, feeling the intense warmth radiating from the dozens of loaves, the aroma of fresh bread, now at its absolute peak. Apprentices, their faces still flushed from the oven's heat, carefully transfer the hot loaves from the wooden peels onto large, sturdy, wicker baskets, or specially constructed wooden racks. The bread crackles faintly as it cools, a satisfying sound that signals the crisping of the crust. The sheer volume of loaves is impressive, rows upon rows of golden brown rounds, some with a distinctive 8-part division, others long and slender, all emitting a comforting, yeasty warmth that fills the entire pastrinum. It's a bread mountain, a truly delicious sight to behold. Historians still argue whether the cooling process was meticulously timed to maximize flavor and texture, or simply a practical necessity to handle the hot loaves before distribution. You inspect the loaves one by one. You tap the bottom of a round loaf with your knuckles, listening for the hollow sound that indicates it's perfectly baked through. You feel the crust, ensuring it's firm and crisp, not soft or doughy. You look for an even golden brown color, a testament to a consistent bake. Any loaves that are slightly underbaked or overbaked will be set aside for your own consumption, or perhaps for the apprentices. The citizens of Rome deserve only the best. As the bread cools, its internal structure continues to set, and moisture redistributes throughout the crumb. This allows the bread to become fully digestible and enhances its flavor. Cutting into a hot loaf while tempting would release too much steam, resulting in a gummy interior. Patience is key even after the fiery ordeal of the oven. The apprentices carefully stack the cooled loaves in layers within the wicker baskets, ready for transport or display. Each basket is meticulously filled its contents, a testament to the hard work and skill of your bakery. The smell in the bakery at this stage is truly heavenly. It's the purest, most concentrated essence of fresh bread, a comforting and deeply satisfying aroma that speaks of sustenance, warmth, and the simple joys of life. It's a smell that draws people in, a silent advertisement for the quality of your craft. You might even break off a small piece of a still warm loaf, tasting its crisp crust and soft, flavorful interior, a small, well-earned reward for hours of labor. This final cooling process, seemingly simple, is the last crucial step in transforming grain water and fire into the daily bread that sustains the Roman world. You certainly wouldn't want to skip this step and send out soft, steamy bread. That would just be a soggy disappointment for your customers. No perfection requires patience right up to the very last moment. With the cooling racks now laden with golden fragrant loaves, your attention shifts from the inner workings of the bakery to its public face preparing. The baker's shopfront beckons. This isn't just a place where you sell bread. It's a vital artery in the bustling Roman street life, a beacon for hungry citizens, and a direct reflection of your reputation. You move towards the front of your pistrinum, readying it for the inevitable morning rush. The shop front itself is typically an open archway or a large wide doorway, facing directly onto the street, allowing the enticing aroma of fresh bread to spill out and draw customers in. There's no fancy glass display case here. Instead, large, sturdy, key wooden counters are positioned just inside the opening. You and your apprentices meticulously arrange the freshly baked loaves on these counters, creating an abundant, tempting display. Imagine pyramids of golden-crusted rounds, stacks of slender, refined rolls, and baskets overflowing with rustic, coarser breads. The sheer volume and variety are designed to catch the eye and tantalize the nose of every passerby. Historians still argue whether Roman bakers primarily sold their bread directly from their pistrinum or through a network of smaller street vendors. Beyond the bread, you might also display other baked goods if your bakery produces them, perhaps some simple honey cakes or small savory pastries filled with cheese or herbs. These additions offer variety and cater to different tastes, expanding your customer base beyond just those seeking their daily bread. The counter itself is kept immaculately clean, dusted, free of flour, ensuring a professional and inviting appearance. A clean shop front reflects a clean bakery, a sign of quality and care. You certainly wouldn't want a customer to spot a stray mouse. That's bad for business and worse for your reputation. As the sun begins to creep above the city walls, painting the street in hues of orange and pink, the foot traffic outside slowly increases. The sounds of the awakening city draw closer. The rumble of carts, the chatter of early market goers, the shouts of street hawkers beginning their day, and then the distinctive thump, thump, thump of your own mill still grinding away in the back adds a comforting, authentic soundtrack to the scene. The aroma of your bread, now fully cooled, but still wonderfully fresh, is your best advertisement wafting down the street, drawing customers towards your door like bees to a flower. You ensure that a supply of small bronze coins is ready for change, laid out neatly in a small wooden tray. Prices for bread were generally regulated, so there's little haggling, but quick, efficient transactions are essential when the rush begins. You take a moment to straighten your apron, ensuring you present a tidy, trustworthy appearance. The day is about to shift from the arduous labor of production to the direct engagement with your customers. The shop front isn't just a physical space. It's the interface between your hard work and the hungry mouths of Rome, the final crucial step in getting your vital product to the people who depend on it. It makes your modern grocery store checkout feel a little less exciting, doesn't it? Here, every customer interaction is personal, a testament to your craft. The aroma of your freshly baked bread, now fully permeating the street, acts as a powerful, irresistible beacon, drawing in the city's early risers. This is the morning rush in the Forum, a bustling, vibrant period where your shop front becomes a hub of activity, feeding everyone from the lowliest laborer to the most esteemed senator. You stand ready behind your counter, your eyes scanning the faces, recognizing regulars and greeting newcomers. The first customers are often the working-class citizens, the artisans and laborers who need a cheap, substantial meal to fuel their long day. They grab a sturdy, coarser loaf, parfuri, panis rusticus, perhaps still warm, often tearing off a piece on the spot, its steam rising into the cool morning air. They hand over a few bronze coins, their movements quick and efficient, eager to get on with their day. You acknowledge them with a nod, your hands moving swiftly to complete transactions. This is the bread that built Rome, quite literally providing the essential calories for countless physical labors. Historians still argue whether the provision of subsidized or free grain to Roman citizens truly alleviated poverty or primarily served as a political tool to maintain stability and popular support. Soon the crowds thicken. Women in tunics carrying wicker baskets arrive to purchase bread for their families, often requesting specific types of loaves known for their quality or suitability for children. Soldiers identifiable by their uniforms might stop by for a hearty breakfast before their duties. Even slaves sent by their masters will present tokens or specific instructions for the day's bread order. Each interaction is brief, direct, and focused on the transaction, but you as the baker are a central figure in their daily routine, a source of dependable sustenance. It's like being the most popular coffee shop in town, but instead of lattes, you're serving up the very staff of life. And honestly, no one complains about the price of bread when they're truly hungry. Then come the more affluent citizens, perhaps a well-dressed paterfamilias or a senator's aide seeking finer loaves for their household tables. They might inquire about the panis siligineus, a whiter, more refined bread made from carefully sifted flour, sometimes requesting it still warm from a freshly baked batch. For these customers, presentation and freshness are key, and you ensure their chosen loaves are impeccable. These transactions might involve slightly more conversation, a brief exchange about the day's news, or a comment on the quality of the bread, adding a touch of personal connection to the bustling marketplace. The sounds of the morning rush are a constant symphony, the clinking of coins, the low murmur of conversations, the steady shuffle of feet in the continuous background. Thump, thump, thump of your mill. The aroma of your bread, a powerful, pervasive scent, continues to draw in new customers, competing with the smells of other market stalls. Fresh produce, curing meats, simmering stews. You are a crucial part of this vibrant urban ecosystem, providing the most essential commodity. Your hands move tirelessly, weighing loaves by feel, taking coins, making change, always with an eye on the diminishing piles of freshly baked bread. The constant demand is a testament to your hard work and skill, but also a reminder that your labor is never truly done. You certainly wouldn't want to run out of bread during the morning rush. That would lead to a very unhappy populace and a potentially very bad reputation for your pastrinum. The pressure is real, but so is the satisfaction of knowing you fed a hungry city. As the morning rush begins to taper off slightly, you have a moment to reflect on the sheer diversity that passed through your hands. This leads us to explore the fascinating array of types of Roman bread. Far from a single generic loaf, Roman bakeries produced a surprising variety, each catering to different social classes' occasions and tastes a testament to the sophistication of their baking craft. You glance at the remaining loaves on your counter, each with its unique character. At the base of the culinary pyramid was panis plebeius, or panis rusticus, the common or rustic bread. This was the dark, dense, whole-grain bread that formed the staple diet of the vast majority of Romans, particularly the working classes and soldiers. It was made from unsifted or coarsely ground flour, retaining most of the bran and germ, giving it a robust flavor and a chewy texture. You can still smell its earthy, wholesome aroma, reminiscent of the fields where the grain was grown. This bread was nutritious and filling, providing the necessary energy for a hard day's labor. Historians still argue whether the nutritional benefits of whole grain bread were fully understood by Romans, or if its prevalence was simply due to economic necessity and widespread availability of coarser flours. Moving up the ladder, you had one panis secundarius, or second bread, which was slightly finer than plebeius marge, made from flour that had been sifted once or twice. It was a common choice for middle-class households, offering a balance of affordability and a slightly more refined texture. It's the bread that filled countless family tables, forming the backbone of everyday meals for a huge portion of the population. But the true mark of luxury was panis siligineus, the finest flour bread. This was the purest, whitest bread made from flour that had been meticulously sifted multiple times to remove all bran and impurities. It was light, airy, and a symbol of wealth and status. Only the affluent could afford such refined flour, and consuming art panis siliginos was a clear declaration of one's social standing. Imagine the crisp, delicate crust and the soft, almost spongy interior, a stark contrast to the dense panis rusticus sounds. You know the immense effort required to produce such fine flour, from the painstaking milling to the repeated sifting. Beyond these staple types, Roman bakers also produced a variety of specialty breads. There were nalpanis artilaganus, a type of cake bread sometimes made with milk wine or oil. For travelers, there was nalpanis militaris, a hardtack-like bread designed for long shelf life. For specific rituals or holidays, special loaves might be prepared, sometimes sweetened with honey or spiced with caraway or anise. The distinctive 8-part segmented loaf, often seen in Pompeii, was a practical design allowing easy breaking off of portions for communal eating. The variety of Roman bread was a reflection of a society with diverse needs and tastes, but also a testament to the ingenuity of its bakers. Your skills encompass this entire spectrum, from the rustic to the refined, ensuring that every Roman, regardless of their station, could find the bread that suited their needs and their purse. It makes your modern supermarket's artisan bread section seem rather limited, doesn't it? Though I bet they didn't have to worry about accidentally selling the emperor a loaf that was too coarse. Having explored the varied textures and flavors of Roman bread, it's impossible to overstate the importance of the simplest yet most vital ingredient: water, essential for life and dough. In your pastrinum, access to clean, reliable water isn't just a convenience. It's the lifeblood of your entire operation, crucial for both the dough itself and the relentless demands of hygiene. You mentally check the levels in your cistern, knowing its precious contents dictate your day. The quality of your water directly impacts the quality of your bread. Clean, pure water is essential for optimal yeast activity and proper gluten development. Water drawn from a well or piped in from one of Rome's magnificent aqueducts would be preferred. You'd avoid stagnant or impure sources, as they could introduce undesirable flavors or worse, harmful bacteria into your dough. Imagine trying to make a delicate panis siligineus with murky, unpalatable water. It simply wouldn't rise, nor would it taste right. This attention to water quality, while not understood scientifically as we do today, was a matter of empirical observation for Roman bakers. Historians still argue whether the perceived superior quality of Roman urban bread was primarily due to the city's extensive aqueduct system providing clean water, or other factors like milling techniques. Beyond the dough, water is indispensable for the constant cleaning and maintenance of your bakery. The dust of flour, the residue of dough, and the inevitable spills mean that surfaces, tools, and hands must be washed frequently. Large stone basins, fed by pipes from your cistern or directly from a public water source, are always in use. Apprentices constantly carry heavy wooden buckets of fresh water, sloshing and splashing as they move through the busy space. You can hear the rhythmic scrub of brushes as they clean kneading troughs and wooden tables. It's a constant battle against grime, made manageable only by an abundant water supply. It's like trying to run a commercial kitchen today without a dishwashing machine, but multiplied by 10. Water is also used to cool the baker after long hours spent near the searing heat of the oven. A quick splash to the face, a damp cloth applied to the brow. These small moments of refreshment are vital for enduring the physically demanding conditions. Even the animals powering your mills, if you have them, rely on a fresh supply of water to sustain their tireless work. The Romans were masters of water engineering, and this public infrastructure directly supported essential industries like yours. Without the complex network of aqueducts and wells, a city like Rome, with its massive population, could never have sustained its daily bread supply. A drought, a damaged aqueduct, or a contaminated well could spell disaster for a baker, leading to a halt in production and a hungry populace. The daily supply of bread was intimately tied to the daily flow of water. You certainly wouldn't want to wake up one morning and find your cistern empty. That would be a literal dry run for disaster. Know the constant presence of clean water is a silent yet fundamental blessing for every Roman baker, as essential as the flour itself. It's the invisible ingredient, Yet without it, your entire world would grind to a dusty, unbaked halt. From the simple necessity of water, we move to the ingenious heart of Roman bread making. Sourdough ancient leavening. This wasn't some packaged freeze-dried yeast from a distant factory. It was a living, breathing culture, a portion of fermented dough saved from the previous day's batch, meticulously nurtured and continuously replenished. This sourdough starter, or fermentum, was your most prized possession, the very soul of your bread, giving it its unique flavor, texture, and rise. You treat it with the reverence it deserves, knowing your livelihood depends on its vitality. Imagine a ceramic crock perhaps tucked away in a warm, quiet corner of the bakery, holding a bubbling, pungent mass of dough. This is your starter, a vibrant ecosystem of wild yeasts and lactic acid bacteria, tirelessly converting sugars into carbon dioxide and various organic acids. Its aroma is distinctive, slightly sour, wonderfully yeasty, and deeply complex. You feed it regularly, usually with a portion of fresh flour and water, keeping it active and strong. It's a continuous life cycle, a living lineage of fermentation passed down perhaps for generations within your pastrinum. Historians still argue whether Roman bakers fully understood the microbiological processes of sourdough fermentation, or if their successful maintenance was purely empirical knowledge passed down through generations. The quality of your starter dictates the quality of your bread. A weak starter results in dense, flat loaves, while a vigorous one produces light, airy bread with a complex flavor profile. You assess its activity by its bubbles, its smell, and its texture. Does it smell pleasantly sour or too acidic? Is it bubbling energetically or sluggish? Your experience, eye, and nose are the ultimate indicators of its health. It's like having a very demanding yet incredibly rewarding pet that you have to feed daily, and if you forget, your business crumbles. Each morning, a portion of this active starter is incorporated into your fresh batch of dough, initiating the magical process of fermentation throughout the new mixture. As the day progresses, a portion of the freshly mixed fermenting dough is then set aside before baking to become the starter for tomorrow's bread, ensuring the continuous cycle. This perpetual replenishment is key. A well-maintained starter can last for years, even decades, becoming a culinary heirloom. The flavor of your sourdough is unique to your bakery, a result of your specific flour water and the ambient yeast in your environment. It sets your bread apart from every other baker in Rome. This reliance on sourdough speaks to a profound connection to natural processes and a deep understanding of fermentation long before scientific knowledge codified it. It meant that Roman bread was inherently more flavorful and often more digestible than modern bread made with commercial yeast. The slow fermentation process broke down complex carbohydrates, contributing to a more nuanced taste. You wouldn't want to accidentally let your starter die. That would be a literal nightmare, setting you back days and risking your precious reputation. Know your sourdough as your legacy, the invisible force that brings life and soul to every single loaf you bake. It's a living tradition, quite literally, right there in your hands. With the sourdough starter happily at work, your attention is drawn to the ceaseless activity surrounding you, particularly the tireless efforts of your work apprentices learning the craft. These young individuals, often boys, brought into the pastrinum at a tender age, are the future of your bakery, undergoing a rigorous and demanding training regimen that is both physically exhausting and intellectually challenging. You are not just their master, you are their teacher, their disciplinarian, and occasionally their reluctant guardian. Imagine a line of young apprentices, their faces smudged with flour, their movements still a little clumsy compared to your own practiced ease. They are performing the most fundamental tasks, continually feeding grain into the mills, hauling heavy sacks of flour, scrubbing enormous kneading troughs, and endlessly sweeping the stone floors. This initial stage is all about building strength, discipline, and endurance. A misplaced tool, a moment of idleness, or an imperfectly clean surface is met with a sharp word of correction, sometimes accompanied by a rap of a wooden spoon or a stern gaze that speaks volumes. Historians still argue whether the perceived harshness of Roman apprenticeship was primarily for character building or a pragmatic necessity given the physical demands and long hours of the trade. As they progress, the apprentices move on to more skilled tasks. You watch as a slightly older Tiro junior apprentice attempts to divide dough, his hand wavering, creating uneven portions. You step in taking a piece of dough, and with a few swift, precise movements, demonstrate the correct technique, feeling its spring and elasticity. You explain, perhaps for the 10th time, the importance of consistency, not just for appearance, but for even baking. It's a continuous process of demonstration, repetition, and correction, punctuated by moments of quiet observation. It's like a never-ending cooking show, but with much higher stakes and no ad breaks. They learn by doing, absorbing knowledge through their hands and eyes. They observe your masterful shaping of loaves, your swift movements with the peel as you load the oven, and your intuitive understanding of the dough's behavior. They learn the subtle signs of a healthy starter, the precise heat of the oven, and the optimal cooling time for each loaf. This accumulated practical knowledge passed directly from master to student is the bedrock of your trade. There are no written manuals for much of this. It's a craft learned through osmosis and relentless practice. The hours are long, the work physically demanding, and the pay for the youngest is minimal, often just room and board. Yet for many, this apprenticeship offers a path to a respectable trade, a livelihood in the bustling Roman economy. A successful apprentice might one day become a master baker themselves, perhaps even owning their own pastrinum. The discipline instilled in them, the rigorous training, and the relentless pursuit of perfection will serve them well, not just in baking, but in all aspects of life. You certainly wouldn't want to rely on an apprentice who couldn't tell the difference between a perfectly risen loaf and a flat, dense disk. Your business would crumble faster than stale bread. No, their training is your legacy, ensuring that the daily bread of Rome continues to be a testament to skill and dedication. With the morning rush concluded and the next batches of bread either proofing or in the oven, your attention turns to the essential task of tiranam, delivery to taverns and stalls. Your pastrina might be the heart of production, but for your bread to reach the wider Roman populace, it needs to travel beyond your shop front. This involves a bustling network of apprentices, slaves, and sometimes even independent vendors, fanning out across the city with carts laden with your fresh, fragrant loaves. You oversee the loading of the large, sturdy wicker baskets, now filled with freshly baked and cooled bread. Each basket is accounted for, destined for specific establishments. Some are for local tabernae, small shops or taverns that serve prepared food and drink, where your bread will accompany stews, cheeses, and wine. Others are for the numerous street stalls and market vendors who resell bread to a wider clientele, extending your reach far beyond your immediate neighborhood. It's like managing a complex delivery route, but without the benefit of GPS or even clear street signs. Historians still argue whether the distribution network for Roman bread was primarily organized by individual bakers, or if there was a more centralized government control system, especially for the subsidized bread dole. Apprentices, often older and stronger or trusted slaves from your household, will be assigned their routes. They balance the heavy baskets on their shoulders or push small two-wheeled carts through the labyrinthine streets of Rome. You give them their instructions, which Tiberno gets how many loaves which stall needs their refill. Punctuality is key. The taverns and stalls need fresh bread early in the day to serve their own customers. A late delivery means lost sales and a potentially damaged reputation for your bakery. It's like a medieval Amazon delivery service, but far more personal and prone to unexpected encounters with stray dogs or grumpy legionaries. The journey through the bustling Roman streets is itself an adventure. The air is filled with the cacophony of the city, the shouts of street vendors, the rumble of cartwheels on cobblestones, the distant bellowing of cattle being driven to market, and the ceaseless chatter of thousands of voices. Your apprentices must navigate narrow, crowded lanes, avoiding jostling crowds, piles of refuse, and the occasional runaway donkey. The scent of your fresh bread acts as its own advertisement, drawing envious glances and perhaps a few impromptu sales along the way. The relationship with the tavern owners and stall vendors is crucial. They are your direct link to a wider customer base, and their satisfaction is vital. You ensure that the bread they receive is always of the highest quality, consistently fresh, and perfectly baked. Good relationships mean repeat orders and positive word of mouth. A complaint from a tavern owner about stale bread could quickly lead to a loss of business. You certainly wouldn't want to receive a message that your bread was being refused. That's a direct blow to your bottom line. As the last baskets disappear down the street, you briefly allow yourself a moment of satisfaction. Your bread is now fanning out across the city, feeding its diverse population. The constant flow of your product from your ovens to the farthest corners of Rome is a testament to the efficiency and necessity of your trade. You are not just baking, you are a vital part of the city's economic and social fabric, ensuring that the staff of life reaches every hungry Roman. It makes your modern delivery app seem rather impersonal, doesn't it? Here, every loaf's journey is a story in itself. With the morning's bread now distributed across the city, your thoughts turn to the often overlooked partnership that underpins your entire operation. Millers and bakers unite. While your pistrinum might contain its own mills, a baker's success, especially in a city as vast as Rome, often depended on a symbiotic relationship with professional millers, even those not directly part of your establishment. You recall the early morning deliveries of grain and the constant need for quality flour. In many cases, larger bakeries like yours owned their own mills, and even the animals that powered them, as we've discussed. This allowed for direct control over the quality and freshness of the flour, a significant advantage. You could ensure the grain was ground to the precise fineness required for your different types of bread, from coarse wholemeal to the purest siligineous. This vertical integration minimized your reliance on outside suppliers and reduced the risk of adulterated flour, a common problem in the ancient world where unscrupulous millers might mix in cheaper grains or even chalk. Historians still argue whether the integration of milling and baking in a pistrinum was primarily driven by quality control or economic efficiency. However, even with your own mills, the sheer volume of grain required for a city the size of Rome meant that bakers often worked in close conjunction with independent millers. These millers operated large-scale grinding operations, often located near the Tiber River or major grain warehouses processing vast quantities of imported grain. You might send your own grain to be milled there or purchase flour directly from them. The relationship was built on trust and consistent quality. A miller who consistently supplied high-quality pure flour would be highly valued, earning your loyal business. It's like a critical supply chain partnership, but instead of complex contracts, it's based on reputation and the honest shake of a hand. You and your apprentices understand the intricate process of milling. You can identify good grain by sight and touch, noting its plumpness and freedom from pests. You understand the different yields from various types of wheat and the impact of the milling process on the final flour. This knowledge allows you to communicate effectively with millers, specifying your precise needs and ensuring you receive the correct product. A baker who doesn't understand milling is like a sculptor who doesn't understand marble. They can't truly master their craft. The flour itself was crucial. Roman bakers used various sieves made of horsehair or linen to sift flour to different degrees of fineness, creating the various grades of bread. The best flour, the siligo, was used for the whitest bread, while coarser flour was used for the more common loaves. Your understanding of flour types and their behavior in dough is paramount. You certainly wouldn't want to receive a batch of flour that's too weak in gluten for your refined breads. That would lead to flat, disappointing loaves and a very bad mood. The symbiotic relationship between millers and bakers ensured that the continuous demand for bread in Rome was met. One processed the raw material, the other transformed it into the finished product. Each depended on the other, creating a vital chain of production that fed the heart of the empire. It's a testament to the specialized industries that flourished in Roman society, all working together to sustain urban life. And honestly, it makes you appreciate that today you can just buy a bag of flour from the store and know it's probably not mixed with anything questionable, unless it's gluten-free. That's a whole different debate. Having seen the vital connection between millers and bakers, let's zoom out to the truly monumental challenge that underpinned your daily existence: the imperial bread supply. Rome, a city of over 1 million people at its peak, was utterly dependent on a constant, reliable influx of grain and the tireless work of bakers like you to feed its massive population daily. This wasn't just about commerce. It was a matter of state security and social stability. You are a small yet indispensable cog in a colossal logistical machine. The vast majority of Rome's grain did not come from Italy itself, but from the fertile breadbaskets of the empire, primarily Egypt and North Africa. Enormous fleets of grain ships, naves frumentarii, traversed the Mediterranean, enduring storms and piracy to bring their vital cargo to the port of Ostia, just outside Rome. From there, the grain was transported up the Tiber River on barges to vast public granaries, horea, in the city. Imagine the sheer scale of this operation, a continuous, precarious lifeline that kept Rome from starvation. Historians still argue whether the Annonawanter Rome's system of grain distribution was primarily a benevolent social welfare program or a crucial tool for controlling the urban masses and preventing riots. Once in the horea, the grain was carefully stored, protected from vermin and dampness. From these granaries, it would be distributed to public mills and bakeries like yours, often on a daily or weekly basis. This wasn't a free-for-all. The Roman state heavily regulated the grain supply, often subsidizing it or even distributing it for free to Roman citizens through the annona system. This ensured that even the poorest Roman could access bread, preventing widespread famine and the social unrest that often accompanied it. You are in essence a crucial part of a public welfare program, ensuring the people have their daily bread and thus their daily peace. For bakers like you, this meant a guaranteed supply of grain, often at a fixed, subsidized price. In return, you were expected to produce bread of a certain quality and quantity available to the public. It was a symbiotic relationship. The state provided the raw material, and you provided the finished product, keeping the vast urban maw of Rome fed. The scale was immense. Estimates suggest that at its peak, Rome required hundreds of thousands of tons of grain, annually translated into millions of loaves of bread every single day. Think about that for a second. Millions of loaves. Daily. No wonder you're tired. The continuous flow of this imperial bread supply was a logistical marvel far more complex than anything seen before in the ancient world. It required vast bureaucratic oversight, military protection for shipping lanes, and the constant labor of countless individuals, from farmers in distant lands to porters at the docks, and ultimately bakers like you. A disruption in this supply chain, a major storm, a pirate raid, a revolt in a grain-producing province, could plunge Rome into crisis, leading to food shortages and riots. The stability of the empire quite literally rested on its ability to deliver bread to its citizens. You certainly wouldn't want to be the baker during a grain shortage. That would be a very unwelcome kind of fame. Know your everyday life, while arduous, contributes directly to the well-being of the most powerful city in the world. While the daily imperial bread supply provided the staple, your skills as a Roman baker truly shone when it came to baking for special occasions. These were the moments when bread transcended mere sustenance and became an art form, a centerpiece of celebration, ritual, and hospitality. You would shift your focus from mass production to meticulous craftsmanship, preparing festive breads and elaborate pastries for holidays, religious festivals, banquets, and private celebrations. Imagine the atmosphere in your pistrinum. During the days leading up to a major festival like the Saturnalia or the Lupercalia, the air would be filled not just with the scent of plain bread, but with the richer aromas of honey, spices, and dried fruits. The ordinary daily grind would give way to the exciting, creative challenge of producing specialized goods. This is where your artistic flair, honed by years of practice, truly came to the fore. Historians still argue whether the elaborate shapes and decorations of Roman festival breads were primarily for religious symbolism, a display of social status, or simply for aesthetic pleasure and novelty. For these occasions, you might use finer grades of flour, enriching the dough with more expensive ingredients. Honey was a common sweetener, often kneaded directly into the dough or brushed onto the loaves after baking to create a glossy golden crust. Dried fruits, such as figs, dates, and raisins, imported from across the empire, would be chopped and folded into the dough, adding bursts of sweetness and texture. Spices, like cinnamon, cloves, or saffron, also exotic imports, would be carefully incorporated, lending warm, fragrant notes to the festive breads. It's like transforming a simple canvas into a vibrant, multi-layered masterpiece, but one you can actually eat. The shapes of these special breads could be highly symbolic or purely decorative. You might mold dough into intricate braids, elaborate wreaths, or even miniature animal figures, perhaps for a child's birthday or a sacrifice. For religious festivals, specific forms might be required echoing ancient deities or ritualistic practices. These were not just about taste, they were visual statements adding to the joyous or reverent atmosphere of the occasion. You might even use special molds or stamps to create highly detailed designs on the crusts, making each loaf a small work of edible art. Beyond bread, these occasions often called for a variety of new pastries and cakes. You might prepare placenta, a rich cheesecake-like confection with layers of dough and cheese drizzled with honey, or libum, a simple Roman cheesecake often offered to household gods. Small honey cakes, sometimes flavored with nuts or poppy seeds, would also be popular. These were often baked in smaller, more specialized ovens, or even on flat griddles requiring delicate handling and precise timing. The production of these special occasion baked goods brought a different kind of satisfaction. It was a chance to showcase your bakery's versatility, your team's skill, and your personal artistry. The delighted faces of customers picking up their festive loaves, or the quiet approval of a wealthy patron for a bespoke creation, were their own reward. It reminded you that your craft wasn't just about feeding hunger, it was about contributing to the joy, ritual, and celebration of Roman life. You certainly wouldn't want to mess up the Saturnalia bread. That's a direct route to an unhappy festival season for everyone. Know these special bakes were where your reputation truly shimmered, adding a touch of sweetness to the demanding rhythm of your everyday life. After the flour has settled from the production of special occasion breads, our focus shifts to a fascinating, yet often overlooked detail that was crucial to your daily business. Loaf stamps and identity. In the bustling, competitive world of Roman bakeries, each loaf you produced wasn't just a generic piece of bread. It often carried a unique mark, a signature that identified your pistrinum and by extension guaranteed its quality. You glance at the small, intricate bronze or terracotta stamps tucked away near your shaping table, knowing their importance. These loaf stamps, or signaculapanus, were typically round or rectangular, carved with a specific design that served as your bakery's distinctive mark. This could be your personal name or the name of your pistrinum, often accompanied by a symbol relevant to baking like a ear of wheat or a kneading trough, or even a depiction of a local deity. Before a loaf went into the oven, especially the common 8-part segmented loaves, this stamp would be firmly pressed into its soft, proof surface, leaving a clear imprint that would bake into the crust. Imagine your modern bread having a tiny edible business card baked right into it. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of these loaf stamps was for branding and quality assurance, or if they played a role in public distribution systems and accountability. The purpose of these stamps was multifaceted. Firstly, it was a form of branding and advertising. In a city filled with dozens, if not hundreds of bakeries, a distinctive stamp allowed customers to identify and choose their preferred baker. If a customer consistently enjoyed your quality, they would look for your stamp, ensuring repeat business. It was a visible sign of consistency and reliability, crucial for building a loyal clientele. You certainly wouldn't want to bake a batch of inferior bread only for it to be identified by your unique stamp. That's a direct route to a ruined reputation. Secondly, the stamp served as a Birkhorn mark of quality control and accountability. If a loaf was found to be substandard, perhaps underbaked, stale too quickly, or even containing impurities, the stamp allowed authorities or aggrieved customers to trace it back directly to your bakery. This placed a strong incentive on bakers to maintain high standards, knowing their product was traceable. In a time before elaborate consumer protection laws, this simple stamp served as a powerful regulatory tool, ensuring a degree of trust between producer and consumer. Finally, these stamps were also important for public distribution. For the state-subsidized Annona bread stamps could have been used to track the quantity of bread produced by each baker for public consumption, or to ensure that recipients were receiving the correct allocation. It added a layer of organizational efficiency to the immense task of feeding Rome. The designs on these stamps, as evidenced by archaeological finds from Pompeii and elsewhere, were often quite charming and varied. Some were simple and utilitarian, others more elaborate and artistic, reflecting the baker's personal pride in their craft. Your own stamp is a symbol of your livelihood, your reputation, and your place in the bustling Roman economy. Every time you press it into a soft loaf, you are literally leaving your mark on the daily life of Rome, ensuring that your bread and your identity are unmistakably known. It makes your modern barcode seem rather impersonal, doesn't it? This was personal branding literally baked into the product, and it carried far more weight than a fleeting logo. After countless hours spent creating sustenance for others, a curious question arises. The baker's daily diet. What does a Roman baker eat after handling so much flour, so many fragrant loaves, day in and day out? You might assume it's an endless feast of warm, crusty bread, and while bread is certainly central, your diet, like your daily routine, is driven by practicality, sustenance, and the need for energy to fuel your arduous work. Naturally, bread is the cornerstone of your diet, almost to the point of being a busman's holiday. You eat your own bread, primarily the more common and coarser varieties, the panis rusticus or panis secundarius. These dense, nutritious loaves provide the bulk of your calories and sustained energy. You might break off a still warm piece from the cooling racks, perhaps dipping it in a little olive oil or a simple vegetable stew prepared by your household. It's a stark reminder that while you produce luxury bread for the elite, your own sustenance often comes from the more humble, yet equally vital loaves. Historians still argue whether the perceived robust health of Roman laborers, including bakers, was primarily due to their high carbohydrate diets or other factors like consistent physical activity and access to fresh water. Beyond bread, your diet is practical and simple, reflecting what's readily available and easy to prepare amidst your demanding schedule. Olives. A staple of the Mediterranean diet would be a common accompaniment providing essential fats and flavor. You might have a bowl of lentil or bean stew, hearty and easily digestible, prepared in a large pot that simmers constantly in a corner of the kitchen, ready for quick meals. Cheeses. Often fresh and simple, would also provide much-needed protein and fat. It's a diet designed for fuel, not for elaborate culinary exploration. Your artistic endeavors are reserved for your customers. Fresh fruits and vegetables, when in season, would also feature prominently. Figs, grapes, apples, or seasonal greens would offer vitamins and refreshing breaks from the heavy carbohydrates. Water, of course, is consumed in vast quantities throughout the day, especially given the heat of the ovens and the physical exertion of your work. You keep a large ceramic jug of cool water nearby, constantly refilling it as you work. It's like an ancient sports drink, but without the artificial colors and sugary sweeteners. While you are surrounded by the rich aromas of your craft, your own meals are often eaten quickly, snatched between tasks. There's little time for leisurely dining. A piece of bread, a handful of olives, and a chunk of cheese might be your hurried lunch, consumed while you oversee the milling or check the rising dough. The simple act of eating becomes another part of the relentless rhythm of your day, a necessary refueling, rather than a moment of indulgence. However, there's a certain quiet satisfaction in eating the very food you've labored to create, knowing its quality firsthand. You are the ultimate taste tester, ensuring the very sustenance of Rome is fit for consumption. You certainly wouldn't want to be caught eating something that tastes off. That would immediately make you suspicious of your own product. So while your diet might seem repetitive by modern standards, it is robust, nourishing, and deeply connected to the very core of your livelihood. It makes your modern lunch break with its endless choices seem almost overwhelming, doesn't it? For you, the choice is simple, fresh, honest sustenance. Beyond the daily rhythm of baking and personal sustenance, a constant underlying battle permeates your pastrinum neurone hygiene in the Roman bakery. In a world without modern disinfectants, refrigeration, or strict public health codes, maintaining cleanliness in a dusty, hot, and busy environment was a continuous uphill struggle, yet absolutely critical for your reputation and the health of your customers. You are perpetually vigilant, ensuring your vast operation remains as pristine as possible. Imagine the sheer amount of flour dust that constantly fills the air from the milling operations. It settles on every surface, clinging to tools, tables, and even your hair and clothing. This dust, while harmless in itself, creates a challenging environment for cleanliness. Apprentices are constantly sweeping the stone floors with long-handled brooms, made from natural fibers trying to control the pervasive white powder. Surfaces are wiped down, but the fight is endless. It's like living inside a giant, delicious snow globe where the snow never melts and constantly needs sweeping. Historians still argue whether the prevalence of respiratory illnesses among Roman bakers was primarily due to flour dust exposure or other factors like smoke inhalation from the ovens. More crucially, the constant presence of our food scraps and crumbs creates an irresistible invitation for pests. Rats, mice, and insects are a perpetual threat, seeking out the warmth and abundant food of your bakery. You employ various strategies to combat them. Traps vigilant cats, often a cherished if gruff resident of the pistrinum, and meticulous cleaning of all surfaces after each shift. Any sign of vermin would be a serious blow to your reputation and could lead to fines or public outcry. You certainly wouldn't want to explain why a customer found an unwelcome guest in their loaf. That's a customer you'd never see again, and word spreads quickly in Roman society. Water then plays a critical role in your hygiene efforts. Large stone basins continuously refilled from your cistern or an aqueduct are used for washing hands, tools, and surfaces. Apprentices constantly haul heavy buckets of water for scrubbing kneading troughs, wooden tables, and the stone floors. The copper pots and implements are scrubbed with sand and ash until they gleam, not just for appearance, but to remove any residue that could harbor bacteria. You emphasize to your apprentices the importance of washing hands, especially after handling raw ingredients or tending to the animals. This intuitive understanding of cleanliness, though lacking modern scientific explanation, was crucial for preventing the spread of illness. The intense heat of the ecobanonas itself serves as a powerful sanitizing agent. The scorching temperatures sterilize the baking surface, with every batch making it one of the cleanest areas in your bakery. However, the surrounding areas constantly exposed to flour sweat and traffic demand continuous attention. You ensure that all dough is kept covered when not being worked, protecting it from dust and insects. Maintaining hygiene in such an environment is a never-ending task requiring relentless vigilance and disciplined labor. It's a testament to the dedication of Roman bakers that they managed to produce safe, high-quality food for a massive urban population with relatively primitive tools. Every clean surface, every swept floor, every polished pot is a victory in the constant battle against contamination, ensuring that the staff of life remains pure and wholesome for the hungry citizens of Rome. It certainly makes you appreciate your modern kitchen's easy wipe surfaces and dishwashers, doesn't it? For you, cleanliness is truly next to godliness, especially when it comes to bread. As the Roman day progresses, your pistrinum undergoes a subtle shift, especially during the warmer months, transitioning into the demanding reality of night baking, a hot shift. While many Roman citizens sleep soundly, your work and that of your dedicated team often continues through the cooler hours of darkness, ensuring that fresh bread is ready for the city's awakening. You glance at the oil lamps flickering in the high corners of the bakery, casting long dancing shadows. The decision to bake at night is often pragmatic. In the intense heat of a Roman summer, working during the coolest hours of the night makes the arduous labor of stoking ovens, kneading dough, and baking far more bearable. The ambient temperature, though still warm, is a welcome relief compared to the scorching midday sun. This also allows you to have fresh bread ready for the very first light of dawn, catering to the earliest risers in the morning market rush. It's like an ancient graveyard shift, but far more productive and with a much better aroma. Historians still argue whether night baking was a universal practice in Roman bakeries or primarily a necessity during warmer seasons and in larger urban centers. The atmosphere during the night shift is different from the daytime bustle. It's quieter, more focused, permeated by the rhythmic thump, thump, thump of the animal-powered mills which run almost continuously. The sounds of the sleeping city are muffled, and the only light comes from your flickering oil lamps and the constant mesmerizing glow of the brick oven. Apprentices, their faces illuminated by the firelight, move with a somber dedication, their movements economical and practiced. You might find yourself humming a quiet tune or exchanging low whispers with your senior apprentices, a sense of shared purpose binding you together in the dark. The heat from the ovens is constant and intense, but during the night it feels almost comforting, a steady warmth in the cool darkness. You constantly monitor the oven's temperature, ensuring it remains consistent for optimal baking. The scent of fresh bread baking, particularly at night, is incredibly potent, drifting through the quiet streets as an irresistible invitation to the few who are awake and passing by. It's a smell that promises warmth, comfort, and the sustenance of life. The challenges of the night shift are unique. Fatigue can set in demanding extra vigilance to avoid mistakes. The quality of the oil lamps must be maintained to ensure adequate lighting for precision tasks like shaping and scoring. And the solitude broken only by the sounds of the mill and the fire can be profound. Yet there's a distinct satisfaction in this nocturnal labor, a sense of being part of an ancient, unbroken chain of bakers who have fed their cities under the cloak of night for centuries. As the first hints of pre-dawn light begin to filter through the small high windows, casting faint gray stripes across the dusty floor, you know your night shift is drawing to a close. The first batches of fresh warm bread are almost ready for the morning rush. The city will awaken to your labor, unaware of the tireless work that unfolded while they slept. It makes your modern late-night snack runs seem quite trivial, doesn't it? For you, the night is for creation, for ensuring that Rome's stomach is full when its day begins. While you, the master baker, navigate the intricate dance of dough and oven, the true engine behind much of the laborious milling process relies on raw power, animal power in the mill. In your Roman pistrinum and countless others across the empire, the continuous grinding of grain into flour was often performed by tireless mules or donkeys, their steady rhythmic toil making large-scale bread production possible. You can hear their constant, almost hypnotic footsteps even as you work on other tasks. Imagine the horsemola, asinaria, the donkey mill, as a prominent feature in your bakery. This ingenious device consists of two large heavy stones, a stationary lower cone, a meta, and a rotating upper hourglass-shaped stone, catillus. A sturdy wooden beam extends from the upper stone, and to this beam a mule or donkey is harnessed. These animals, often blindfolded to prevent dizziness, plod tirelessly in a slow, continuous circle around the mill, their muscles providing the brute force needed to turn the massive upper stone. The incessant clack, clack, clack of stone on stone mingled with the soft shuffle of hooves forms a constant backdrop to your day. Historians still argue whether the use of blindfolds for milling animals was primarily for preventing dizziness for animal welfare or to prevent them from becoming distracted and stopping work. The animals, often specially bred for their strength and endurance, are carefully looked after. They are fed, well provided with water, and given breaks because their continuous labor is utterly indispensable to your business. A healthy, strong mule could grind grain for hours on end, transforming vast quantities of wheat into the fine flour you need for your various breads. Without them, the entire process would be far more labor-intensive, relying solely on human muscle, which was less efficient for large volumes. It's like having a very slow, very furry biological machine that runs on hay and stubbornness. Apprentices are responsible for tending to the animals, guiding them, and ensuring they keep moving. They also continually feed grain into the hopper at the top of the catillus and collect the freshly ground flour that cascades from the bottom. The air around the mills is thick with flour dust clinging to the animals' coats and settling on every surface. It's a dusty, noisy, yet utterly vital corner of your pistrinum. The use of animal power was a significant technological advancement in Roman bakeries. It allowed for a much greater output of flour compared to hand grinding, enabling bakeries to meet the demands of a growing urban population. It also freed up human labor for other crucial tasks like kneading, shaping, and baking. This efficiency was key to the economic viability of your business and its ability to contribute to the imperial bread supply. You certainly wouldn't want your mule to go on strike. That would be a very unwelcome kind of labor dispute. This constant rhythmic turning of the mills by animal power is a powerful reminder of the ingenuity and hard work that underpinned Roman daily life. It highlights how ancient societies harnessed both natural resources and animal strength to create the necessities of civilization. For you, the baker, the sound of your mill churning steadily day and night is the reassuring beat of your livelihood, the tireless engine that transforms raw grain into the very staff of life for Rome. Beyond the relentless rhythm of the mills and the searing heat of the ovens, your life as a Roman baker is also deeply intertwined with your personal world. The baker's family life. Balancing the demanding, often round-the-clock work of a pistrinum, with the responsibilities of a household, children, and community, is a constant act of juggling, a testament to the resilience and dedication of Roman working families. You might catch a glimpse of your own children scurrying through the back of the bakery or share a hurried meal with your spouse between shifts. Many Roman bakeries were family-run businesses. You as the pistor, the master baker, would likely be the patriarch, but your spouse and older children would play crucial roles. Your wife, the pistrix, might manage the shop front during peak hours, handle finances, or oversee the younger apprentices. Your children from a young age would be exposed to the trade, perhaps helping with simple tasks like stacking wood, carrying small baskets, or sweeping floors. This immersion served as an early apprenticeship, instilling in them the discipline and skills needed to potentially inherit the family business. Historians still argue whether Roman children were primarily seen as sources of labor within family businesses or as recipients of formal education. The pistrinum was often not just a workplace, but also your home. Many bakeries had living quarters attached, sometimes above the main production area, allowing you to be constantly present, overseeing operations even during the dead of night. This blurred the lines between work and family life, making the bakery the undeniable center of your world. Imagine the comforting smells of baking bread permeating your sleeping chambers, a constant reminder of your livelihood. It's like having your office in your living room, but way hotter and with more flour dust. Despite the grueling hours, moments of family connection would be cherished. A quick shared meal in the quieter afternoon hours, perhaps a simple pulse porridge or some fresh bread with olives eaten amidst the cooling ovens. The sight of your children playing in a small courtyard at the back of the pistrinum, or their excited cries as a fresh batch of bread emerged from the oven, would provide brief, heartwarming respites from the endless labor. These small joys provided the motivation to continue the demanding work day after day. However, the demands of the trade often put strain on family life. The unpredictable nature of oven temperatures, the constant need for vigilance, and the pre-dawn starts meant little time for leisure or public life. Social gatherings might be missed, and holidays might require more work, not less, to produce festive breads. Yet there was also a strong sense of shared purpose and resilience. Your family's prosperity was directly tied to the success of the bakery, fostering a deep bond and a collective effort. The Roman baker's family life was a microcosm of broader Roman society, where work and family were often inextricably linked. It highlights the dedication and adaptability required to thrive in a bustling urban environment. You certainly wouldn't want your family squabbling over who gets to stir the sourdough. That's a recipe for disaster in the kitchen and at home. Know the rhythmic pulse of the bakery, fueled by both labor and love, ensured that both your family and the city of Rome were well fed, a silent testament to the enduring strength of the Roman household. Amidst the relentless rhythm of baking and the complex tapestry of family life, your existence as a Roman baker is also a constant battle against unforeseen threats. She challenges fire and spoilage. These aren't mere inconveniences. They are ever-present dangers that can, in a single moment, destroy your livelihood, your property, and even your life. You are perpetually vigilant, a guardian against the forces that seek to undo your painstaking work. Fire is your indispensable tool, yet also your greatest enemy. Your massive brick oven, stoked to scorching temperatures, is a constant source of potential disaster. A stray spark, a poorly stacked log, or an uncontrolled flare-up could quickly engulf your entire pistrinum in flames. Roman cities, with their densely packed wooden structures, were notoriously prone to devastating fires. You and your apprentices are trained to handle small fires, immediately keeping buckets of water and sand readily accessible. You periodically inspect the oven and its chimney for cracks or weaknesses, knowing that a structural failure could be catastrophic. The pervasive smell of wood smoke in your bakery is a constant reminder of this ever-present danger, a subtle whisper of potential destruction. Historians still argue whether Roman urban fire brigades, vigils, were truly effective in containing fires, or if their primary role was more about patrolling and maintaining order. Beyond the immediate threat of fire, spoilage is a more insidious but equally damaging enemy. Your fresh ingredients, grain, flour, and dough, are vulnerable to various forms of deterioration. Pests, particularly rats and mice, are a constant menace, attracted by the warmth and abundant food. They can contaminate your grain stores, chew through sacks of flour, and even leave their droppings in your dough, rendering an entire batch unusable. You employ stringent measures storing grain in tightly sealed bins, keeping cats in the bakery often a gruff but effective deterrent, and maintaining rigorous cleanliness as we discussed. A single rat infestation could ruin your reputation and lead to significant financial losses. You certainly wouldn't want to find a rogue mouse in a loaf destined for the imperial palace. That's a direct ticket to a very short career. Mold and rot are also concerns, especially for flour and dough, particularly in humid conditions. You ensure your storage areas are dry and well ventilated, and that dough is kept covered and used promptly. Any dough that smells off or shows signs of mold is immediately discarded, no matter how much effort has gone into it. The temptation to salvage a questionable batch is strong, given the cost of ingredients, but the risk to your customers' health, and thus your reputation, is far too great. Even your finished product bread is perishable. While some loaves are baked to be harder and more durable, most are meant to be consumed fresh. Stale bread, while not dangerous, is less palatable and can damage your image. You manage your production carefully, aiming to minimize waste while ensuring a constant supply of fresh loaves. These constant battles against fire and spoilage are an inescapable part of your daily life as a Roman baker. They add a layer of stress and vigilance to an already demanding profession. Every day is a test of your preparedness, your meticulousness, and your ability to safeguard your livelihood against the unpredictable forces of nature and the relentless threat of pests. It makes your modern worries about a power outage seem rather minor, doesn't it? For you, a bad day could mean losing everything. Beyond the immediate perils of fire and spoilage, your daily life as a Roman baker is also intricately bound by the formal structure of the legalities of Roman bread. This wasn't a free-for-all market. The Roman state, keenly aware of bread's central role in social stability, implemented various regulations and quality controls to govern bakers and ensure a consistent, affordable supply for its vast population. You navigate this legal framework, constantly knowing that adherence is key to your continued operation. One of the most significant aspects was the Mino and Nona Walker system, the state's provision and distribution of grain. While some grain was sold at market rates, a substantial portion was procured by the state, sometimes from its own imperial lands, and then distributed to licensed bakers like you. This grain was often provided at subsidized prices or even free to citizens through the bread dole frumentatio. In return for this guaranteed supply, you were obligated to produce a certain quantity of bread, daily adhere to specific standards of quality, and sell it at state-regulated prices. It was a complex partnership, ensuring both your livelihood and the city's peace. Historians still argue whether the Annona system, while providing essential sustenance, stifled innovation in the Roman baking industry by controlling prices and quality. You would be part of a college or guild of bakers, Collegium Pastorum, a powerful and prestigious professional association. Membership in this guild granted you certain privileges, like access to subsidized grain and protection from competition, but also imposed strict obligations. The guild would enforce quality standards, ensure fair practices, and even act as a liaison between bakers and the state. You certainly wouldn't want to fall foul of the guild's rules. They held considerable sway and could revoke your license to operate. It's like being part of a very old, very influential trade union, where your benefits are tied directly to your adherence to strict rules. The high quality control shown was not merely a matter of personal pride, it was legally enforced. Loaf stamps, as we discussed earlier, were crucial for accountability. If bread was found to be underweight, adulterated with inferior ingredients like chalk or dirt, a common fraud, or simply poorly baked, you could face fines, public shaming, or even more severe penalties. The Parior Vigils, Bucorin. Rome's urban police force and fire brigade might conduct inspections, and public outcry over bad bread could quickly escalate into social unrest, something the Roman authorities were desperate to avoid. Imagine having a government official randomly inspect your sourdough starter. It's a level of scrutiny far beyond modern health inspections. The very profession of baker became hereditary. In later periods of the empire, meaning sons were often compelled to follow in their father's footsteps. This ensured a continuous supply of skilled labor for the vital bread industry. While it guaranteed a livelihood, it also limited personal freedom, tying families to the demanding trade for generations. Navigating these legalities was an integral part of your daily routine. It meant meticulous record-keeping of grain received and bread produced, constant vigilance over quality, and an unwavering commitment to meeting your obligations to the state and the citizens. Your quiet work in the pistroinum was in a very real sense essential to the functioning of Rome itself, maintaining the fragile balance between supply, demand, and public order. You certainly wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of the Annona officials. That's a quick way to lose your precious grain supply and your livelihood. The bread that fed Rome was not just baked, it was legally, meticulously, and rigorously managed. While bread in its many forms was your primary focus, your skills as a Roman baker weren't limited to just loaves. Your pistrinum, especially if it catered to a wealthier clientele or specialized in festive goods, would also produce a delightful array of, beyond bread, Roman pastries. These sweet and savory baked goods offered variety, indulgence, and a chance for you to showcase a more refined side of your culinary artistry. Imagine alongside your daily bread, small, delicate honey cakes. Placenta, not related to the biological term, thankfully. These were often made with layers of dough, sometimes resembling phyllo pastry cheese, and copious amounts of honey, creating a rich, sweet confection. You might spend hours meticulously brushing each thin layer with clarified butter or olive oil before baking, ensuring a crisp golden texture. Other cakes like our labum were simpler, often a type of Roman cheesecake made with flour, ricotta-like cheese and eggs, typically offered as a religious offering or a simple homely dessert. The aroma of baking honey and cheese would mingle delightfully with the scent of plain bread, creating a truly inviting atmosphere in your bakery. Historians still argue whether the complexity of Roman pastry recipes indicates a distinct culinary tradition separate from bread making, or if it was simply a more elaborate extension of the baker's craft. For those with a savory tooth, you might also prepare small, savory pastries, or pies. These could be filled with seasoned meats, vegetables, or cheeses, enclosed in a simple dough crust. Think of small handheld turnovers, perfect for a quick, flavorful meal on the go. These were particularly popular in thermopolia fast food stalls or tabernae taverns across the city, providing a more substantial bite than a plain piece of bread. You'd carefully crimp the edges of these pastries, ensuring the filling remained perfectly encased during baking. The ingredients for these pastries were often more expensive than those for everyday bread. Fine sifted flour, fresh eggs, rich cheese, aromatic honey, and imported spices like cinnamon or pepper would be used generously. This made these items luxuries enjoyed by the affluent or reserved for special occasions and feasts. Your ability to produce such refined goods elevated your status as a baker, showcasing your versatility and the high standards of your pistrinum. It's like being a master artisan, but your canvas is a pie and your paints are delicious ingredients. The baking of these pastries required different techniques and often slightly lower oven temperatures than the robust heat needed for large loaves. You might use smaller dedicated sections of your oven, or even bake them on griddles or in smaller portable ovens. The timing had to be precise to ensure a perfectly cooked filling and a golden, flaky crust. A burned pastry was a waste of expensive ingredients and an affront to your reputation. These Roman pastries offered a delightful glimpse into the sweeter, more indulgent side of Roman cuisine, proving that ancient diets were not just about survival, but also about pleasure and celebration. They added a vibrant splash of culinary artistry to the demanding life of a Roman baker, allowing you to exercise your creativity beyond the essential daily loaf. You certainly wouldn't want to accidentally mix up your savory meat pies with your honey cakes. That would be a very unwelcome surprise for a Roman patron. Know every baked good, whether bread or pastry, was a testament to your meticulous skill and the enduring appeal of delicious food. As the last of the day's special pastries cool and the remaining bread is prepared for the morrow, a profound quiet finally settles over your pistrinum. The great brick oven, its work for the day largely done, radiates a gentle residual warmth, and the scent of flour and baked bread begins to subtly fade, replaced by the cooler, cleaner air of approaching dawn. This is the true end of day exhaustion and dough. You stand amidst the cooling surfaces and the still pungent aromas, feeling the deep ache in your feet and the weariness in your bones, but also a quiet, undeniable sense of accomplishment. Your head might throb faintly from the day's constant heat, the fine flour dust, and the relentless mental calculations of time and temperature. Your muscles, particularly in your arms and shoulders, from hours of kneading and loading the oven, are pleasantly sore. But your mind, though tired, races back through the countless loaves you've baked, the unique aromas you've created, and the thousands of hungry citizens you and your team have successfully fed. From the coarse honor panis rusticus that fueled the laborers to the delicate panis siligineus. For the elite, every single loaf was handled with your skill and dedication. It's like having run a marathon every single day, with the finish line being the satisfaction of a city well fed. Historians still argue whether the extreme physical demands on Roman bakers led to shorter lifespans, or if their robust diets and constant activity contributed to longevity. You watch as the last few apprentices, their faces smudged with flour, their eyes heavy-lidded with fatigue, finish their final sweeping and dousing of embers. Their quiet movements are a testament to the discipline instilled throughout the day. You offer a silent nod of approval to your senior apprentice, who will oversee the final preparations for tomorrow's first bake. There's a shared sense of camaraderie among your team, a silent acknowledgement of a demanding day impeccably executed. You certainly wouldn't want to be the one responsible for a bread shortage. That's a kind of professional failure that has immediate and very public consequences in Rome. The air, though still holding faint whispers of yeast and wood smoke, is now dominated by the clean, sharp scent of damp stone as cleaning efforts continue. The immense space, once a vibrant, chaotic hub of activity, now feels almost empty, silent, waiting patiently for the dawn to reignite its fires. You trace the worn grooves on a marble preparation table with your fingertips, feeling the centuries of labor ingrained in its surface. This isn't just a job. It's a legacy, a tradition, stretching back generations, and you are its current proud custodian. As you finally turn to leave the now quiet Pistrinum, stepping out into the cool pre-dawn Roman street, you feel the gentle night breeze on your face. The sounds of the city are still mostly hushed, offering a moment of true peace before the next day's clamor begins. You think of the millions of grains that pass through your mills, the countless loaves created, and the essential sustenance provided to the very heart of the empire. The exhaustion is profound, a deep weariness that settles into your very bones. But it is a good exhaustion earned through dedication and skill. You carry the quiet pride of a craftsman, an artist whose medium is dough, and whose canvas is the hunger of Rome. The day is done, the duty fulfilled. As the last whispers of the Roman night finally yield to the faintest blush of pre-dawn light, you make your way to your modest sleeping quarters, the deep, satisfying ache of a day's honest labor settling into your very bones. The subtle aroma of freshly baked bread, a lingering ghost from your pistrinum, seems to follow you, a comforting presence that promises good dreams. You finally shed your flour-dusted clothes, the fine white powder, seeming to glow faintly in the dim light, and surrender to the promise of rest. Sleep comes easily, a deep restorative plunge into unconsciousness that washes away the fatigue. But even in its depths, your baker's mind is never truly idle. It quietly processes the lessons of the day, subtly anticipating the challenges and triumphs of tomorrow. Perhaps you dream of the rhythmic, cheer clack, clack, clack of the milling stones, a soothing, hypnotic beat. Or you might feel the elastic resilience of perfectly kneaded dough beneath your hands, a silent dance of mastery. The warmth of the oven's fiery embrace might still permeate your dreams, a comforting heat. You might envision perfect golden-crusted loaves, their surfaces marked with your unique stamp, cooling on wicker racks, their silent perfection a testament to your craft. Or perhaps you smell the rich, sweet scent of honey cakes, or the savory aroma of a perfectly baked meat pie, reminders of the special treats you create. Even the subtle yeasty tang of your precious sourdough starter might feature in your slumber, a living legacy bubbling softly in the quiet darkness of your subconscious. For a baker like you, dreams are often filled with the very elements that define your waking life: the texture of flour, the feel of dough, the warmth of the oven, and the pervasive, comforting scent of fresh bread. These aren't just chores. They are your art, your purpose, and your contribution to the very pulse of Roman life. As you sleep, the vast, hungry city of Rome, from its mighty senators to its lowliest citizens, rests secure in the knowledge that you, the baker, will rise again before the sun, ready to rekindle the fires and begin the timeless dance of turning grain into the daily staff of life. May your rest be profound, your dreams sweet and flowery, and tomorrow's bake as perfect as today's. Sweet dreams.